Hello, hello, and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And Finding Better, as a lot of you know, is a place where we share real life experiences and wisdom. It's not about us telling you what to do. It's not about us selling you anything. It's not even about us giving our opinions or theory or academics. I once had a friend who told me, John, I could care less about your opinion, but I'll listen to your experiences all day long. And that's what this podcast is all about. And so we have a did I say really? Really special session with you today. My guest is June Edward, and she wrote a book, and she's amazing. I'm gonna let her introduce herself to you. But she wrote a book called All's Fair in Love and Karma. And if you're on my on YouTube, you can see the book cover in her background. Now, listen, folks. I'm just going to tell you up front. If you believe you have an open mind, now's the time to keep it open. Some of you are going to really get into this like I did, and some of you are kind of going to go, really? What is this really all about, right? And so June, welcome to Finding Better.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I just want you to go through a brief introduction. You and I met each other on this media summit, and yeah, go
Well, I'll
for
jump
it.
in
Go for
for it.
it.
I'll jump in for it.
Introduce yourself, please.
So I'm a relationship expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Relationship Mastery Program, which is a 7-week program that helps people fix their relationships, bottom line, one person at a time. I don't believe in working with couples. It only takes one person to make or break any situation, because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. And when you do something different, everything in your life changes. So from having hundreds of people go through that program, I ended up writing my latest best-selling book, All's Fair in Love and Karma. And it deciphers the 3 different types of relationships that exist: twin flame, karmic relationships, and soulmates, and the 5 reasons that we're here, the why that we get into the relationship. What's the why behind it? And there's 5 lessons our soul has to learn in order to advance. It's
So
self-worth.
so so you just said the 5 lessons our soul has to learn.
That's
Okay, I
right.
just want to make sure that everybody
We are
heard that.
not the suit that sits here. This is just the body we decided to come into. Our soul is pure energy, and that's who we truly are. And when you leave this world, you leave your body behind. You are nothing but pure energy. But you take with you all of your knowledge and all of your feelings. Those are the 2 things that go with you. So you come here to learn these lessons, and this is what advances your soul. And it's self-worth, trust and communication, unconditional love, money and balance, because money is energy, and patience, because everything comes to you in the time that it's supposed to. We plan this life before we come here, whether you believe it or not. And anything that I'm saying, no one has to believe anything that I tell them. If you're listening to this podcast, you're here for a reason. This is something that you
That's
need to.
right.
And, I was one of those people growing up that if I couldn't see it, feel it, hear it, touch it, it must not be real, right? I
Yep.
always knew there was a higher power, but for me, religious stuff, rosary beads, statues, saints, angels, I thought they were all fairy tales. Well, I can tell you firsthand that they are absolutely real, and that everything
Okay.
happens in your life for a reason. There are no accidents. Everything is
Okay.
pretty much planned.
So you said a lot just in that little 45-second segment. You started off with relationships, and it's wonderful because one of the things that I really like to focus on was finding better relationships, finding better love, finding better friends, and finding better self. Right? One of the greatest one of the best episodes that I had an interview with was a young woman who, and I called the episode "Finding Better Self-Love."
Well, your
And
relationship first starts with you, self-worth.
there you go. There, Wow, that kind of nets that part of it out, doesn't it? Okay, so talk a little bit about your journey. I mean, you said a lot in that
Sure.
I'm gonna rewind and listen to probably 3 or 4 times.
So
How
I'm
did you?
also a psychic medium. That's what was left out of that whole thing. And
Okay,
what
so we're
does
gonna talk
that
about
mean?
yeah, yeah.
What
What?
does that mean to people?
Okay,
Okay.
so let's talk about that in a little bit, okay? Because I want to talk about you. I want to talk about your experience because you're not coming from a place of theory. You're not coming from a place of reading books. You're not, you're coming from a place of personal experience. So
Yeah.
share what happened and share how you found yourself in on this journey.
So growing up, for me was like someone that grew up in a war zone. It was a very difficult upbringing. I'm one of 8 children.
Hmm.
My parents were extremely dysfunctional, physically, mentally, sexually abusive. It was horrendous. I say we dragged each other up. And it's
Hmm.
interesting because I'm doing advanced astrology now, and my moon is opposite Mars. And those are people that were literally born in war zones. And that's what it felt like for me growing up.
Wow.
They were also hoarders. And if anybody's seen that show on TV, they had
Yeah.
nothing on my parents, let me tell you. We had kittens that were born in the house once, and we could never find them. We could only hear
Oh
them,
my
could
gosh.
never find them. There was a little path that you would walk on top of all the stuff to get from one room to the next. Yeah, it was horrendous. We would go to the dump every day, and my mother would have us fill the car up and bring stuff home.
My
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it was crazy. And but when I was young, I had a lot of psychic ability. And as a child, you don't know what it is. You're scared to death of it. My earliest remembrance was about the age of 3. I had someone calling my name, and I got out of bed thinking it was my parents, and they were asleep. So I went back into bed and lied down, and then started realizing that there were all these faces looking at me in my room. And it scared the heck out of me. I pulled the covers up over my head, and when the sun started to come up, they were getting closer to my bed and literally almost face to face through the sheet. It was very, very frightening as a child because you don't know what it is or what you're seeing.
It'd be
And then
very
as I got
frightening as an adult. Are you kidding me?
exactly, and this is why
Holy
people
cow.
block their abilities. Yeah. So
They
when I got
block their
older and
abilities.
got into
Okay.
school, I would tell people what was going to happen before it happened, and I got labeled a freak really quick because kids are cruel. So I really blocked my abilities the best I could for the majority of my life. When I was 10, my
Wow.
dad kidnapped the youngest 5 of us, and told us our mom was crazy, told us she threw us out, which
Mm.
was not the case. And there was, my job after dinner was to wash the dishes every night. And there was a woman that would stand there about the age of 45 and keep me company every night, which I appreciated. I didn't really know anybody. And one day I asked my brother who she was. And he starts laughing and telling me that she was the woman that used to live in the house. Her husband killed her and threw her down the stairs, which was true. And
Wait, so your brother knew who this
he
woman was?
Yeah, I don't
What?
know that he was seeing her or not. He might have been. I don't know. I just kind of thought everybody saw her. But when he told me
Oh.
she was dead, it scared the heck out of me. And she felt it. So she never came back.
Oh,
Yeah.
no
And I used
kidding.
to have such a connection with my older sister, psychically, that, she was 10 years older than me. She'd be calling me on the phone. I'd be calling her on the phone. This would go on for hours. We couldn't get through because we both get busy signals. We're both trying to call each other. Then we'd figure out that we're both trying to call each other. We'd both stop calling, and then nobody would call. And it would be hard for one to pick up the phone without the other. It was such a connection. We were constantly calling each other at the
Wow.
same exact time, all the time. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
so you went through your childhood, you went through a childhood that most people can't even imagine. And you take the rest who can't imagine it and you put on top of that your psychic abilities, and all of a sudden you're unique to yourself. And so you were born with this, obviously, this gift, which as you were growing up, I'm sure there were times that you thought it more of a curse than a gift. Um,
Not really,
Not
because
really? Okay.
everybody's born with psychic ability and mediumship ability. You call it intuition, okay, or your gut instinct. You can call it whatever you want, but it's the same thing. Everyone's born with it, and
Okay.
it's kind of like playing a piano. Some people sit down and all they can do is play chopsticks. Other people want to develop it a little bit, so they'll teach themselves a couple of songs, right? Other people want to do it for a living, so they'll become a concert pianist. And I'm like the 6-year-old prodigy that sits down and plays Mozart.
Okay. Okay. So so you had a death experience.
I did, yeah.
And so can you well, I'd like you if there is a connection between your abilities that you were growing and your death experience. That would be really interesting, but
Well, I
most
think there is, and
interesting.
I'll tell you the
Okay.
scientific connection to it.
Okay.
So when I was 22, I hurt my back and they wanted to do back surgery. And I was afraid because I just knew that I was going to die if I went in for back surgery. I just knew it. So again, that's your soul, that's your intuition.
Right.
And I put it off for 5 years because I knew I was going to die. And I got to the point that I had no choice but to have it done. And I told everybody before I went in, I'm going to die. And they're like, no, you're not. You're just afraid. I'm like, telling you. So the
Wow.
night before the surgery, I had an MRI done with contrast dye, and I told them that I thought I was allergic to it because I'd had it once before and had a really bad reaction. And they're like, "Oh, you're just afraid. It's fine. Everybody has that reaction." Excuse me, 1 second.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, and this is I can't even imagine your feelings of knowing that you're going to die, and everybody's like, "Ah, no, no, you're
Yeah,
okay. You're just
yeah,
getting, you're just getting hysterical."
yep. So
Yeah,
as soon as they gave me that dye, I literally died.
you died.
And I died.
Clinically, you
And
died. You
I never
flatlined.
even heard the definition of a near-death experience, an NDE, until a few years ago. And I can tell you a little bit about that in a minute too. But I died, literally. That's what I always said because I died. I knew I died.
Hmm.
And the people that do literally die and come back, there's not a lot because everyone is lumped into an NDE. So, for instance, if you were in a very bad car accident, and what happens is your soul is too big for this body. Some of it's in your body, some of it's over your head that people can see, and they call it an aura. And the majority of your soul is actually in the lowest level of heaven, the fifth dimension. And it orchestrates the timing of the events that happen in your life, and it has all the knowledge of all your lifetimes. So, because you take with you knowledge and your feelings to the other side, they don't want your soul being traumatized by something like a car accident if it's not supposed to be fatal. So, like my 16-year-old brother, he was in a very serious car accident when he was 16. He remembers his soul standing on the sidewalk watching the whole thing until the paramedics came. Then he went back into his body. That they consider that a near-death experience, even though you're not supposed to die at that point. He didn't die. His soul jumped out of his body to protect him from all that feeling. Same thing with a girlfriend. She got hit by a deer coming through the side window, and she saw the deer's body go, she saw the soul of the deer go to heaven. And her soul came out of her body, and she thought she'd done something wrong because it was stuck on the headliner of the car. Okay, she was up there until the paramedics came and she went back into her body. But all of those people are lumped into a near-death experience.
Okay.
So I literally died. And it's a little different for some people. I didn't see a tunnel of light. I literally, boom, was taken to heaven. That's
So
it.
the difference is a near-death experience is a near-death experience
Right. It's
where
near death.
you
It's not death.
actually
I
experience
actually
death.
died.
You didn't get near it. You
Nope, I didn't
did
get
it.
near it. I died.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And when people ask how long, I don't know how long. They claim brain damage sets in at 3 minutes. It
Hmm.
had to be at least a minimum of 3 minutes with everything that was happening because the doctor had to come over and realize I was having a reaction. Then he had to go hit the button on the wall for the crash cart. Then the nurse had to come in with the crash cart. Then they injected the line and that didn't do anything. Then they took out the paddles and they paddled me a couple of times and none of that worked.
And
Then they
you're
took the bed up and the doctor's slapping me saying they can't lose me. All this takes time.
and
I'm not there.
are you watching this?
So yes, I am in heaven at this point, and I'm not only watching this from heaven, but I'm seeing everything in the hospital that's happening. The nurses are out there at the nurses station talking about it. The people in the room behind me are having their own little issue going on.
And
And in the
hence, you know that this
meantime,
was more than 3 minutes,
and in the
right?
meantime, I'm getting a life review in heaven. I'm like, wow. And it's literally like sitting in the front seat of an IMAX theater. And this whole big movie is just playing out in front of you.
Whoa.
And again, I've heard from people that have got less than 10% of the people that have a near death experience get to this level. Okay. And less than that have a full life review.
So
And
so so
again,
what so what was on the IMAX screen?
well, again, it's different for everybody. Some
Uh-huh.
people see different things than what I saw. Now, all I was seeing on that life review, they were showing me purposefully all the people in my life that had made a difference to me, that had cared about me, that had loved me, all the moments
Oh, wow.
that made me happy. I think they were trying to influence me to come back, because then I heard from behind me. I did not turn around. I heard, it's not really your time. You can stay if you want to, or you can go back. It's your choice. And for me, I used to say that the only two things you took with you was love and knowledge, because for me, it was overwhelming love. It was just amazing. Words
Wow.
can't even describe it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then I remembered I had two children here that was still very young. And I knew that I came back here originally for them. They were my purpose here. And they also brought me the greatest joy in life. So as soon as I made that decision, I was back in my body in an instant, literally.
Oh, wow.
So you asked me about my abilities and having this near-death experience connection. Couple of things happened. First of all, when you think of quantum physics and the speed of light is almost 300 million miles a second. When my soul left my body, that's how fast it was traveling. And then it came back into my body at that speed. So my energetic vibration is automatically much higher than most people. I can connect to the other side in seconds. I can go back and forth. I can send my soul back and forth at will to the lowest level of heaven.
Okay. So let me just okay. So the 300 million miles a second. What you're saying is that your soul was traveling at 300 million miles a second, and then all of a sudden stopped when it returned into your body. Is that what you're saying? And then
Well, it never stops because it's
that's what
energy.
caused. Okay,
Your energy
so
is always moving. But so when we're living in this we're in 3D here, having a
right.
human experience. Our vibration here is somewhere usually around the 500 range. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, Low vibration is the 400 range. And believe it or not, all the music you listen to on the radio, it was agreed upon by almost all of the countries back in the 1960s to keep that vibration around 432 megahertz to keep your vibration low. Because when you raise your vibration, this is how you connect to your soul and connect to the other side, connect to your angels, all of those things. You have to raise your vibration.
Okay,
So
so
again, we're in 3D. When you go to sleep at night, you're in 4D. That's your dream state. And the lowest level of heaven is 5D, and it goes up from there.
okay, so I'm trying to reconnect. Is there your vibration is very, very high.
It's still very high.
And did that high level of vibration happen because of your death experience?
I believe it did. Yeah, I
Okay.
believe that's
Okay.
why, and you would think at that point that, my abilities would have just opened right back up again, right? But they didn't, because I still was afraid. And it took me a long time to process dying. I couldn't even talk about it for years without sitting here bawling my eyes out, because the emotion, the feeling of being on that other side is so incredible. And many people that get to that other side take their own lives when they come back because they can't get that feeling back. But you can through meditation.
Wow.
When you get in touch with your soul, you're not just getting in touch with what's inside this body. You're getting in touch with the part of your soul that's in heaven, the majority of it. And that's the high vibration. And that's that unbelievable, incredible feeling. It's the highest high you've ever had in your life, higher than any drugs or alcohol could ever put you.
Wow.
That's what you get through meditation when you're doing it properly and getting in touch with your soul.
Okay. Okay. There you talked about a lot of things. And so, okay, so let's talk now about your psychic abilities and what that means.
So again, when I came back, my psychic abilities did not just open right back up for me again because I had a lot of fear. While we're here in this body, we have a brain in our head, most of us, right? Your brain
Most
is a
of us.
massive
Yeah.
computer. Your brain
Hmm.
is a massive computer. It processes all the information you get during the day. But your brain has a very specific job. Your brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. So most people make all their decisions based on fear. And they make their pros and their cons. But when you make your decisions based on fear, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but you're always questioning your decision. Everybody has had that knowing at some point in time, that gut instinct that they just knew there was something they were supposed to do. And they did it without thinking it through. And it works out 100% all the time. That is your soul. Okay. That's your psychic ability, your intuition, your gut feeling. It's all the same thing. Everyone has it. Everyone's born with it. People have to learn how to listen to it and trust it because it's always right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So
Now,
about 10 years ago, I was going through a second divorce and losing all my businesses because the economy was terrible and they got dragged into the divorce. And I went to a Reiki practitioner who is energy work for some relaxation. And she recommended that I meditate. And the same thing that all my students have told me from day one, I can't do that. I can't shut my brain off. I was running 5 businesses, going through a divorce, taking care of my dying mother. There was no way I had time to meditate or could do it, right? Well,
yep.
I can tell you that it's cumulative. Even though you don't think you're connecting, you're always connecting. And as soon as I meditated the first time, it was like they kicked the door into the other side. She's ready.
Oh,
And I couldn't
wow.
shut it off. And I was working my own business as a medical esthetician. So I got up that morning. Things were weird in my house. There were people that I could feel that there were people again. I'm like, this is not good. I went into
Oh,
work,
wait. So those feelings that you had as a child and the people
came
there
back a
all of a sudden
thousand
were,
times stronger. Yes.
oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go
So
ahead.
I get to work, and the first client that I had, I'm like, did your aunt die? She goes, yeah, how'd you know that? I'm like, I have no idea how I knew that. I'm like, did you just clean her house out? She goes, yeah, last weekend we cleaned her house out. I'm like, oh, did you find one of those sock puppets that
What?
looks like a monkey from the 1950s? She's like, yeah, we found one in the attic. I'm like, oh my God. And it just kept getting worse. Every client, the next one that comes in, I'm like, listen, something's weird's happening to me. I kind of know things that I'm not sure why. I'm like, and it was Christmas time. I'm like, do you have 5 Christmas trees in your house? She goes, I do. I said, 3 upstairs, 2 downstairs. You have like a raised ranch. She goes, yeah. I said, and you have a beautiful fireplace. Everything's white. I said, she goes, yeah. I said, you got a 5-year-old little girl? She goes, you've been to my house. I'm like, I swear to God, I haven't been to your house. I said, I know what you got your husband for Christmas. Do you want to know what he got you? She's like, no.
What?
It just kept, so by the time my 4th client came in, she was a widower. She was a widower and a widow, right? Woman,
Widower.
widower.
No, widow. Yes,
She was a
the
widow.
men are widowers. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a
She's a
widow.
widow.
And she was a young girl. She was only about 30. And right behind her was a full apparition of a man in military uniform. And she came in and I said, are you a widow? She goes, yeah, my husband died last year. I'm like, oh, was he in the military? She goes, yeah. I said, oh. And like, so even before I got training, I knew it was unethical to give people information if they didn't want it. So I asked her, I said, listen, I said, if somebody had information from him or a message from him, would you want to know it? And she's like, absolutely not. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
But now this
wow.
guy's standing next to me for the whole service. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
sorry, she doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to know you're here. Now I'm like,
oh,
I'm freaking out. I'm like, I finished this day and I'm going trying, I'm calling every psychic I can find. How do I shut this off? I could not shut it off.
wow. So, okay, so the military guy who was standing behind his the widow,
Yeah.
the thing that comes to mind is you want to make those guys happy, right? I mean, I can imagine him haunting you.
I was just
Yeah,
I mean, I was freaking out, really. I was
that's
freaking out.
wow. I
And
just
this
feel
is what
like,
happens to a lot of people that their abilities open up. I have people contact me constantly because similar situations out of the blue, their abilities just open up and they can't shut it off. A lot of people end up self-medicating, drugs and alcohol, because they
oh
think they're going
no,
crazy. They don't know how to they don't know how to shut it off. And I
wow.
spent a year and a half in training on learning who I'm talking with, how to turn it off, how to turn it on, how to protect myself. And then my education took over from the other side.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so at this moment, at this moment, you've talked about a lot of things. And what we like to do, what I like to do with this podcast is give people wisdom and life experiences that they can take as a result of having, and they can apply to their own life. So um, what can people do? And we're not. I'm not wrapping it up by any stretch, but at this point in time, because there's just so much wrapped up into what you've been saying, what can people do? What can people take away from this and apply to their
So
own lives?
I recommend that everybody learn how to meditate. I truly do. It is
Okay.
calming. It brings clarity and it helps you connect to your soul and to the other side. And you are always in charge. So if you don't choose to have your abilities open up, then you don't have to have them open up. But it will get you more in touch with your own intuition, your own soul, so that you can listen to your soul to make decisions. I have my master relationship program, and it was reuniting couples, and a lot of them were in the middle of divorce or separation. They're like, I don't know if I want to be with that person. And I'd be like, I will never tell you whether or not you're supposed to be with someone.
Hmm.
You have to get in touch with your own soul and be able to listen to that answer. And when you're able to do that, you'll know it's the right decision. And I had people literally in abusive relationships that any counselor would have told them to run. And after going through the program and listening to the soul, they knew they were supposed to stay with this person. And the way the program works, for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. And when you change the way you do things, everything around you changes. So when you are able to get in touch with your soul and you look at life from a higher perspective, and you change your vibration and raise that energy, we're like magnets. We're either repelling or we are attracting at any given time. It's like a
Hmm.
radio station. You can't get the station in unless you're on the right frequency, right?
Right.
Everyone in your life is on that frequency. And when you raise your frequency, people are either going to come with you or they're going to drop off. And when you're in a very close relationship with people, whether it's family members or a significant other, when you balance that energy, it only takes one person because you're on the same energetic frequency. The other person will balance their energy as well.
And
And
this is what
everything changes.
And this is why when you're working with couples and you're working with
One
helping to
person,
repair relationships, you only work with one.
one
You
person,
don't
not
work
couples.
with
It
two.
only takes one person. Once they change their energy, the other person's energy is either going to change or they're going to drop off because they don't belong together, one or the other.
I read your book and I couldn't put it down. I was actually reading your book during a volleyball game, a college volleyball game with the number one. This is real recently. University of Hawaii and Cal State Long Beach, number one and two in the country, were playing each other at Cal State Long Beach, and I am reading your book. During this game. And my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading this book. I can't put it down." And so I told my wife, I told her about what you said about, for lack of a better term, using the standard vernacular, marriage counseling. And I told her that you only work with one of the two. You don't work with both of them. And we talked about it, and she says, "Boy, that just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense." And so you just put the sense around it. So thank you for that. So
Yeah.
so the takeaway, if people want to participate in your program, that's great. If people want to get your book, that's wonderful. But absent them having to do either of those things, their takeaway is start meditating. Start meditating.
But do
You
it the
know,
right way. Most people don't teach it properly, and most people don't do it properly. And when you don't, it's dangerous, because when you open yourself up to the universe, you're opening yourself up to good and evil, and they both exist. Everything in the universe has to stay in balance. So there is good and there is evil. And the prize is your soul. And I've even
you are
had
the
students
prize.
not following my program properly, not protecting themselves. They got full on possessions. I had 2 students out of a few hundred that got full on possessions, demonic possessions. Yeah.
Okay, so
So important to protect yourself.
okay, so don't meditate unless they know how to
Meditate,
do it
but
right.
learn how to do it properly. It's so important. I put the correct directions in every one of my books on how to protect
Okay.
yourself first. Angels are real. They exist. They're there to help you.
Yeah.
Ask them.
Yeah.
They're a separate race. They were never human, but they have rules like we do, and they cannot help you if you don't ask. So call on Archangel Michael. Call on him to put you in a bubble of protection, and keep anything evil or low vibration away
Yeah.
from you. And he
Yeah.
will.
Okay.
He will.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Holy cow. So what's your life like now?
Oh my God, I love my life. I moved to Florida a few years ago. I had lost both my dogs before I moved. One had cancer and one was just 16 years old and died. So I waited a couple of years and I finally got a rescue about a year ago, and he's the love of my life.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's
But I
awesome.
have, I just love it. And I travel back and forth to Massachusetts a lot to see my children, because all 3 of my kids live up north and all my grandkids are up there. So in fact, I'll be going there this weekend for Easter.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so a question for you from the perspective of a layman. I mean, I'm just a hack when it comes to a lot of things in life. Um, as I think about what the different things that you said, um, how, we started with meditation and being careful and asking for help to protect you from evil. Um, what are there any other things folks can do? You said that everybody has psychic abilities. And what comes to me is that well, for me, I discovered I'm not a psychic, but I discovered a long time ago that when I listened to that voice, it was always right,
Absolutely.
always right.
That's your
And I
ability.
and I learned to follow it. I learned to follow it, and it has
It's
led me
amazing,
to
isn't
the
it, when you
joys
follow
of
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
both good and bad, right? I mean, I follow, it'll say do things, it'll say don't go there. And
Exactly. It'll
it's
save you from a lot of problems and grief in your life.
yeah, and so for my experience, I just listened. I just allowed myself to listen.
And you have
And
to shut out the rest of the noise of the world and able to do that. You really do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that could be something that folks can uh start with, right? To get to maybe start to get reacquainted with the psychic part of their spirit.
Yeah.
So wow, wow. Okay, so June, um, if people want to reach out to you, uh, if people want to be part of what you do, how do they do that? How do they do what want to do with
So they can
you?
go to my website. There's lots of stuff
Okay,
on my
good.
website for them, juneedwood.com. I've actually written 4 books. But there's links to all of my books on my website. There's also lots of videos that you can watch from my students that are kind of fun, and see
Wonderful.
how they completely change their lives around. There is a free webinar that people can sign up, learn a little bit more about how energy works. And then if they're interested in the relationship mastery program, after they've watched the webinar, they can sign up for a free call with me to see if they're a good candidate for the program. And then I also do readings, Akashic record readings, destiny card readings, mediumship. I can bring your loved ones through from the other side if you need closure or just need comfort or whatever else it is that you need. So you can book my services online as well. And then I'm on all social media except for TikTok. I am not on TikTok.
I'm
So you
not
can
either.
find all
Yeah.
the other social medias, and there's links on my website to all of those as well.
Okay. So website is June Edward. And just to make sure, it's JUNEEW.
ED.
Sorry. Scratch that. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, so rewind it. So it's June, JUNE Edward, EDWARD. Okay, .com. All right. So JuneEdward.com. And I love that, June, because people can learn more about you. People, they don't have to buy anything to learn more. But if they want to learn more, and they want to bring you into their lives, they have that opportunity to do
Yeah, and I
so.
also have a blog on there that's really fun to read I haven't updated it in quite some time, but there's lots of really fun stories on there about my experiences and readings that I've done for other people that were pretty amazing.
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you, you've opened my eyes, and thank you for sharing. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for coming on and sharing yourself, sharing your experience, sharing who you are, and putting yourself out there. And
My
uh,
pleasure.
and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
We're all
Okay,
here to help each other. That's one of the reasons we're here.
we are, and I tell people that I think we all share a common purpose, and one common purpose is to make the world better than the day we landed on it. And we're all in this
Wouldn't that be
together.
nice?
Huh? What?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, yeah. Well, let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. June, thank you so much. God bless you, and thank you for everything that you do and sharing such a big part of your life with us.
Pleasure.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Check it out. Check it out and listen to that inner voice. It's real. It's real. And have fun with it. Okay. I love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.